What's up, lifelong learners? It's your boy, Mr. Hang. And so for this video, you should have already done the part where you partnered up, you add a mic, you both recorded a multi-channel recording, and now we're going to go into actually editing. So I'm going to make this smaller real quick, and then I am going to show you here that your multi-channel recording should have been automatically saved in, again, Document, Road Connect folder, and then inside of whatever date that you recorded that audio. Okay, so I recorded an audio podcast today with a student. They did a demo with me in front of class, and then I was the NT1 5th generation microphone, so mic number 1, that's me right there, and then he was on the pod mic USB right here. Okay, and he was mic 2. And then the sound is all the sound effects that I played, the background music, not the background music, I take that back. The intro music, if you played intro music, but in this particular case, you didn't record any of that. All you did was record the audio, and the voice, that's my voice, that's his voice. And then sound is, again, just the stuff from the sound pad that you got recorded in a separate audio track. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to import those. I'm going to go to File. I'm going to go to Import, File, and then I'm going to go to Document. I'm going to go to Road Connect, and I'm going to go to today's date, which is the 15th. And I'm going to hold Command, and I'm going to click on my mic, his mic, and the sound effects that were used and recorded during our conversation for this particular podcast, which is for Valentine's Day. Okay, don't worry about stereo mix and don't worry about system wave, but make sure you choose a file that says WAV at the end. All right, click open. So these files are going to be open for me, and then I'm going to start a multi-track recording session by clicking this right there. And then, and now you're being asked, what do you want to name it? So I'm just going to say, I'm going to move this mic real quick right here. I'm going to call this one Favorite Valentine Memory. And then I'll just put demo. So normally it'd be like period 1, period 2, period 3, whatever period I'm teaching. And then I'm going to tell this software, Audition, where to save this file. I'm going to click on Browse, and then I'm going to go to wherever I have my podcast saved on my desktop, my podcast folder, wherever you want to save it, wherever you saved it, okay? I just happen to be on the desktop. And I'm going to go to a Valentine's folder because the other podcast we did was your favorite teacher. All right, and then we click choose. Okay, so watch what's going to happen, all right? Right here in this folder, so desktop, podcasts, you're going to see a new folder in Valentine that's going to say favorite Valentine and then just demo. All right, this is period 6. This is period 1 or 2, I believe. Okay, but here we go. You're going to see a new folder pop up. That's the point. I'm going to click save, and then see that folder just popped up right there. I don't know if you noticed it, but yeah, it's right there. It says favorite Valentine memory demo. So there it is. That is this particular multi-track editing / recording session, because we're not recording yet. We're just learning how to edit in Audition. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drag this mic, which I am not the host. I'm going to be second, and then the other mic is the host because the student asked me a question, so I'm going to put him first. And then I have my sounds, and my sounds are the sound effects that were recorded during the session. Click on that and drag it on, and then I'm going to drag this over here just to make sure I can see the entire recorded session. So now I'm going to introduce you to the razor tool, the move tool, and the selection tool. All right, the razor tool and the move tool are used in combination. So basically it's like this. I'm going to take this and I'm going to cut the part out where I don't need. Okay, I'm going to click on cut, and then I click on that using the move tool, and then I'm going to click on delete, and I remove that part because I don't really need it, because in the beginning it was just me talking to the student. All right, And then I'm going to listen back right here.
What's your favorite memory of Valentine's you hate?
All right, so his mic is up here. Okay, so again, I'm going to go use the razor tool. I'm going to cut. All right, and I'm going to cut here as well because I don't need that. Going to delete this. And then I'm going to click and drag this close to this part right here because this is when I started responding. I don't want the, silence. Let me just play it for you. Like, maybe you can hear it.
What's your favorite memory of Valentine's you hate?
Long silent. That we don't want that. So what I want is I want to be able to just cut to the chase and then drag this over right there. So now, if you listen back to it.
What's your favorite memory of Valentine's you hate? My favorite Valentine's.
All right, so I was way too loud. Now, you learned this before. All you have to do is just double click on this, highlight his voice, and then just raise it to about -3, between -3 and -6. All right, -3 right here and -6 right there. And then I'll click on back to multi-track, and then you get back into the multi-track editing. Now you can listen to back to it, and you can hear the leveling between his voice and my voice.
So what's your favorite memory of Valentine's you hate? My favorite Valentine's.
His is still a little bit louder than mine, so you know what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring it back down just a little bit like that. Okay, so do it until you're pleased with the sound and it's level to you and your ears. Okay, so I'm just gonna go through this really quick by just chopping the parts I don't need. I'm gonna go ahead and chop here using, I clicked out of it because it was highlighted. Use the razor tool. I'm gonna chop this, chop that, chop this, chop that, chop, 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 and then chop the end right there. So then I'm going to go here and then I'm going to delete what I don't want. Delete that part, click on it and push delete, click on it, delete, click on it, delete, and click on it, delete. So basically to me, editing is like cooking, right? All these things that you brought in are basically your raw vegetable or meat or whatever it is that you're cooking with. All right, the ingredients, and then you chop it up into only the things that you need, and the stuff you don't need, you just throw it away. Okay, I hope that made sense. Now, what's a quicker way than chop, 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 click, delete, click, delete, click, delete? The quicker way is to use the selection tool. The selection tool here is, it's gonna allow me to click, drag, and then just push delete on that very specific track. Like here in between, I don't want to chop delete. Click and drag on the yellow and push delete on your keyboard, and then it just deletes. But the problem here is I can't move stuff around unless I use the move tool. So I use the move tool, and I can move this and bring it over here, bring this one over here, all right? Now, you're gonna hear me bleed into his mic.
My favorite Valentine's memory was when I saw my wife dressed up, and I said, she heard me and she gave me that look where it's like.
That was my sound effects, right? Okay, so what I'm gonna do now here is, I'm gonna make this shorter by zooming in. By zooming in, you're doing this. Make sure you're getting to this red part right here. Zoom into that red line, all right, not too much. I'm gonna make this a little bit shorter, and I'm gonna bring this a little bit closer because I want the sound effects to come in a lot quicker. And then I'm gonna double click into the sound effects, highlight it, okay? And then it's just the, oh, okay, so, and then the wheel part is right here. So now I'm going to make this louder to level it with the other audio. So again, between -6 and -3. And then I'm gonna go back and click on multi-track. So I'm gonna now zoom back out, okay? And I'm gonna listen to it.
Where it's like.
Okay, and then I'm gonna continue my story. So I'm gonna bring this over, bring this over, bring this over, okay? Bring this over, and I'm gonna listen to it.
We locked eyes and romance was in the air as we floated towards one another and we hugged.
All right.
We locked eyes and romance was in the air.
Okay, I think I accidentally chopped something off that I needed. Let me go Command Z and undo all this real quick right here. I think I accidentally, oh, I threw away something right here that I forgot. Okay, I need this part right here. So I did Command Z. So when you make a mistake, go ahead and Command Z and go back. And I'm gonna chop this part right here. and I'm going to chop that part right there. So now I'll go in and I'll delete these. Don't need that, 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 and I don't need that. So I'm going to bring this over here. I'm going to click and drag this to close it like so, or use a selection, highlight, delete, selection, highlight, delete, move it over. We're using the move tool. So here it is.
And I said, she heard me and she gave me.
All right. Here we go.
And I said,
all right, that's a little late. I'm going to go back. Clean that up. Bring this a little bit closer like that. So I want the sound effects to come in as much as I can. You do plus minus to zoom in and zoom out. So plus minus, it will zoom in and zoom out like that. Okay? All right, so let me just get this, make sure it's perfect.
I said,
And then I'll bring this over and I'll continue on with my story.
she heard me and she gave me that look where it's like.
All right, so then I can bring this in over here. All right, okay. So I'm going to go in, and I only want half of this because this feels a little long. This sound effects feels a little long. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to highlight this part and delete that part out. And then I'm going to use the move tool. And I think that sounds about right.
Where it's like.
All right, little late there, so I'm gonna move this over just a little bit more. Again, I can zoom in, and now move this over to the red. There. All right, so that looks about right.
Look where it's like.
Okay, now I want it to be leveled, so I double click into that, highlight this, and then I'm going to make it louder by taking up the amplitude. Right there. Maybe the right there should be fine. Go back to multi-track.
Where it's like.
Okay. Alrighty. So then I'm going to bring this one over. Oh, guess I didn't need that sound effect after. I click on, highlight that, delete, drag this one, bring it over here. After that part's done.
We locked eyes and romance was in the air.
All right. This is when I'm supposed to play my harps music. Let me go back to multi-track. Click and drag this over. I'm going to use the selection here. Click and drag this. Delete that because I don't need it. Or you can use the chop tool, right? Make it louder. Double click on. Oh, don't click on these lines. All right, you want to double click on the wave. Highlight this. Make it louder. About that. So this is going to play harps music.
And romance was in the air.
Oh, I want to play right there.
Eyes and romance was in the air.
All right, while that is playing, I want my voices to start talking over it.
Here, as we floated towards one another, and we.
All right, so there you go. And I'm going to bring this over, zoom out here, bring these tracks over, delete this.
I said, "Have a good day, my lady."
All right, so this part right here, I'm actually going to add in another sound effects that I forgot to use during my recording session. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to chop it like so. And then I'm going to move this out of the way because after this, my script says I need to have a of her saying something, another sound effects that I didn't import. So I'm going to go import that now. I'm going to go to File, Import, File, and then it was supposed to say Desktop, Podcast Folder, Valentine's, Happy Valentine's. This is what the robot would say. This is a robot voice right here. All right, so she's supposed to say Happy Valentine's to me.
Hey, my lady.
Happy Valentine's Day, darling.
And she replied.
Oh, there you go. And she replied. After that, then it's and she replied. That goes there.
Hey, my lady. And she replied.
All right, that was a long pause right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a little bit shorter. And that a little bit shorter and close the gap here. And I'll bring this one over and I'll close this gap right here. Oh, I didn't want to do that. Go back. Sometimes you accidentally double click. That's what happens. There you go. Bring this over like that. And then watch this.
Day, my lady. And she replied,
Happy Valentine's Day, darling.
All right. So that's what I wanted her to say. And then I'm going to finish my story right here. Again, slide this over so I can listen.
Day, darling.
as she ran out the door.
As she ran out the door, and I'm going to add footsteps here because I have footstep sound effects. File, import, file, and I have my footstep sound effects right here. Okay, gonna drag that in. Here's her footsteps.
Ran out the door.
All right, so I'm gonna chop that part right here to make it shorter. And I'm gonna fade that part in a little bit, fade out a little bit, fade in a little bit.
As she ran out the door.
All right, and then
That's it.
all right, and then I'll close that because that was the student voice.
That's it.
And then I'm gonna come over here to the student, and he ended the podcast right here. I need to chop this, chop that part, chop the end, move tool, delete that, click on it, delete it, click on this, delete that, drag this over, all right? And I'm gonna zoom in on the red line, zoom in on the red line, zoom in some more. Okay.
That's it.
All right, so I'm gonna make his voice a little bit louder right here because he's ending the podcast with me. Double click into it. Raise his voice.
That's it. That's it.
That's it. All right, so we're done. Okay, so basically, I'm going to make this full screen again. And now I'm gonna highlight all of this. I'm gonna move it over. I'm done with my podcasting with the sound effects and everything. Now I'm gonna add the intro music and the outro music after the fact. So I'm going to go to File, Save As, not Save As, Import, wherever you save your intro, outro music. I remember mine was in Music, Podcast, Let's Hang Out, Intro, okay? And I'm going to put that right in the beginning, all right? So I'm gonna play my intro music. See, I click and drag until it snaps. So this is the end of my intro music.
So what's your favorite memory of Valentine's, Mr. Hay?
My favorite Valentine's memory was.
All right, so there you go. I'm talking about my podcast, right? And then I'm gonna click this and drag it and put it at the end of my podcast as well, right about. Let me just about like right here. Let me zoom in just to make sure that's near the end. Okay, I don't want to overlap his voice, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to put it right there. Okay, so then when we end the podcast,
That's it.
That's it.
and then that's the ending outro. Okay, now the only other thing that's missing is the background music because I need this to sound, like it's a romantic story, right? You gotta set the mood. So I'm going to go to File, and all this stuff was, downloaded ahead of time. File, import file, and then I'm going to go to my desktop, my podcast folder, my Valentine's Day folder, and then I have the Sweet Vibes. All right, Sweet Vibe. Click on that, bring that one in because that's gonna be my background song. Put it right here when I'm about to start talking, okay? And this is gonna, as the sample rate's different, blah, 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 it's okay, just push okay. And then I'm going to chop this up real quick to make this start earlier. Click on that, delete. When I'm about to start talking, that's when I'll fade in the music a little bit, all right? And then I'm gonna chop this one right here because this is the end of my podcast, right there, that's the end of my story. I'll chop it like somewhere like right here, okay? And then I'm gonna go use the move tool, click on that, delete it, and I'm gonna click on this, and I'm gonna click and drag that corner right there to fade the music out. And then watch, you're gonna hear this and it's like overpowering my voice because the music's too loud.
Give me that look where it's like. We locked eyes and romance was in the air.
Yeah, if you can hear it, like my voice is being drowned out by the music. So there is this part right here, this yellow line. If you click on this yellow line, you can bring it down. Okay, bring it down until your voice is louder than the music. You can barely hear the music in the background.
And I said, she heard me and she gave me that look where it's like.
All right, I can still hear myself clearly over the music, and the music is still there. So basically, this is the end of you editing your podcast, and then you're gonna watch the next video on how to save and how to export this podcast. All right, so that is how you use your move tool, your razor tool, and your selection tool to edit the podcast. And anything that you forgot, you can always add in later, like your intro, your outro, your sound effects that you forgot, and the background music that you downloaded and had it ready to go for editing. Okay, so hopefully that made sense. If it didn't, watch the video again. Okay, we're gonna say goodbye now with rock, paper, peace. Let's hang out again in the next video. That was a long recording, let me tell you.